Hello, and welcome to Nameless Studio. I'm your host, Tyler. Today we're going to be finishing our Last of Us piece. We just have a few more details to put in and a little bit of balancing to do between some of the parts and pieces. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and get started. But before we do, I just wanted to thank everyone for all of your support over these first few weeks. And please subscribe and stay tuned for more content like this. You are so appreciated. And with that, let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start out today by adding in some very subtle, more mushroom-like aspects into this layer that I just really wanted to have a little bit more sort of texture and detail happening in there. So this is going to sort of form up with all of those sort of scratchy line elements that I put in. And so basically what I'm doing now is I'm putting basically, let's say, call them mushroom caps on top of the mushroom stalks. So we're taking the white transfer paper and sort of drawing in not complete circles, but sort of disoriented shapes to sort of mimic that, but without feeling like they're too distinct. So there are little details that you're not going to notice too much at first glance, but the more you kind of look at this piece, the more you'll find elements like this in them. So that's what you see me doing right now is using the stencil and this transfer paper to basically make little mushroom caps to sort of bridge that gap between those line elements and the big sort of fungal growth that we have going on as our main sort of focal point. So, and then what we're going to do is kind of take, like everything else that we do here, is take an X-Acto knife to it and sort of just scratch it away just a little bit so that it feels a little worn in and more a part of the overall aesthetic. Now in this video itself, it's really not going to look like we're doing a whole lot overall from the start of this video to the finish of it. It's really just honing in on a few little details, adding in little almost like hidden elements to sort of find as you further look into this piece. So not a whole lot's going to change from the overall composition and design from where we are starting right now to where we're going to end. But there is enough change to warrant discussion. So at the moment, we kind of have all the elements in place, but there's certain things that just aren't quite working for me. And always look at it from as many angles as possible just to see if things aren't really reading well in certain orientations. Always a good visual tool to use when looking at your work is to put it in an orientation that may not be the final one, but it's always good to sort of see how things work in other orientations. So we took a little bit of a torch to this layer. I was just trying to diffuse more than anything else that top left circle there. And to be honest, I actually over diffused it. It's now too soft. It feels too washed out, what happens with the transfer paper is when you heat it, it starts to disperse through the wax. And so it got a little too dissipated there. And so right now I'm trying a few things to sort of rectify that issue. I still want a tension up in that area, but I did not want it to be as strong as that white was. And now I'm trying to add a little red in there, and as I do so, to be honest, it draws still too much attention and the wrong attention too. All that red that we have going on in the actual fungal growth needs to stand on its own. So adding too vibrant of a red element up top here really changes the overall composition too much. you almost get drawn up to that corner too quickly and kind of get stuck there. And we don't want that to happen. So this is one of the great things about Encaustic, is that you really can scratch stuff away and kind of start back where you were. So I've layered this well enough that I have some clear coats, so that while I'm scratching this away, I'm not really scratching anything underneath. I'm really just scratching off that top layer of the transfer paper and now that Neocolor pastel that I put on top there. So we're gonna scratch this back, and honestly we're gonna put that white back in there, but in a less vibrant way. But this is one of the reasons why I really like working with Encaustics, is because it is fairly forgiving. You can really go back and rework things quite easily. One of the only issues I really come across is if you don't have good clear coat layers in between, sometimes your scratching away can create you're scratching away too much wax, so you're actually getting too much gestural marks from that, and then to dissipate those, you're going to have to go back over it with a torch again, and sometimes that can cause even more diffusion overall. So there's a weird happy balance that you need to find with it all, but once you kind of understand the medium a little bit more, it's very easy to go back in and sort of rework areas if they're not working for you. So at the moment what I'm doing is, I felt like that white up top was showing a little too strong, partly because we don't have much solid, vibrant white happening throughout the piece. At this point, we've either covered it with a clear coat layer, which does dull it a little bit, or we've covered a lot of it with the red. So right now I'm going back in with the X-Acto knife and just pulling out little bits here and there to show more of that just clear, strong white. So that'll help balance the white sort of circle, sort of stream elements that we're going to put back in here, so that those won't feel as out of place, since we'll have other sort of strong white elements speckled out throughout sort of the composition. So these are the little things that you don't really notice from point A to point B, but are definitely there and do help inform and complete the overall composition. Without these aspects, things just don't feel as synergistic and as part of a whole. It's feeling too much like layers on top of layers, and we want them all to jive very well. Nothing really wants to feel out of place or an element that's not repeated in some other fashion. So that's where we are right now. So we've kind of scratched away a little bit of those red elements and brought some more white back in, and it's feeling more complex than it was before. Again, minor little changes and details. And that's looking pretty good. And with all that scratching, it didn't really leave any hard marks or anything like that I have to then sort of tone down. I was pretty soft with that X-Acto knife, so it didn't create any giant fissures or chunks of wax taken out, so that's nice. So now we're going to go back and we are going to re-add that sort of white aspect that I had taken completely away at this point. But we're going to leave it just, I'm not going to push down as hard, and we're going to leave it a little bit more open. And so that is what we end up with for our finished piece today. The one thing here, I did have one chunk of white that was taken out here, and so I'm gonna fill that in with a little bit of this red transfer paper, and then a little bit of the black Neocolor pastel, just to soften it a bit. It felt quite strong in comparison to the rest of it. Even now, from this far away, you can still prominently see that little scuff mark there. So we just want to do what we can to soften that ever so slightly. So we're kind of taking away the white, adding more red, and then just a little black to darken the very edge of it. And just rubbing that in there to make sure it all sticks. Don't have to do this too often. It's rare that I find that some of these marks are too strong, but every now and then you'll get one that just stands out too much. And so that does it for this piece. I thought the next piece that we would do would actually be kind of a bigger piece in the same thematic elements of The Last of Us, but to be honest, I've gotten so sick of saying fungal and fungus that we're actually stepping away from the Last of Us theme. Transitioning slightly, we're still in the video game realm, and then it's still in a very similar color palette, nixing the red, focusing more actually on black and white elements, but we're transitioning into the video game Death Stranding. So stay tuned for that, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, and if you'd like to see more content like this, like the Death Stranding stuff we're gonna be diving into next time, please subscribe, and until next time, I've been Tyler with Nameless Studio. Be seeing you.